Welcome to Off Their Rockers with your host, me, Dayna Steele, and Lisa Forehand, two women who have reinvented ourselves later in life and want to help other women do the same. We live, we love, we party, we travel, we have sex, we have insecurities, we dish, we do and feel almost all the same things we did in our 20s and 30s, but with a lot more wisdom these days. So no matter what age you are, join us as we visit with friends. You might learn something and even better, gain the courage to start a brand new adventure. This is Off Their Rockers, and your life starts now. I was so excited to get up this morning and, dive into Facebook. And amongst all of my trolls and all that fun stuff, I found a post from an old friend who happens to be an old rocker who is still rocking, and that would be the one and only Pat Benatar. She and 8 other women are featured in the new issue of W Magazine in an article titled "Long May They Rock: 9 Trailblazing Women Who Rewrote the Rules of Music and Are Still Rocking." And I thought, hallelujah. That is what this podcast is all about. Off Their Rockers for women 50 plus who, we're not dead yet. I know somebody else has already used that phrase, but we do like to use it a lot because we're not, and we bring wisdom and we bring legacy. And when Janine Vanderburg reached out to me on LinkedIn and wanted to be on the podcast, it made so much sense. She is one of the organizers with Flip the Script. She consults and works with businesses and brands and media about how they can be age inclusive, working with multi-generational teams, and is also founded Changing the Narrative, which is a leading U.S. campaign to end ageism. I love it. Janine, welcome to Off Their Rockers.
Thank you for
Yes.
having me. I'm so excited, and I loved your intro. I've got to check out that W magazine
Oh
art.
my God, when do you see the pictures? The picture they took of Pat. Pat is over 70 now. She and her husband are out as the opening act for Bryan Adams, but she is in leather and it's not radio anymore, so I can say fuck me boots. And she has got her hair wild and she is letting her wrinkles fly. And I just like and she's still amazing, amazing on stage. So
Talk
there
about
you go.
flipping the script, right? I love it. I love it.
That's what I was going to ask you. Can you share with us what you mean when you talk about flip the script?
Well, flip the script is basically, and it's flip the script is kind of embodied in the title of your podcast. It's sort of changing the storyline that we tell ourselves about getting older, but more importantly, changing the storylines that we allow others to tell about us. So during this flip the script campaign throughout the month of May, what we're saying is, you've got to stop thinking of experienced talent and older workers as someone who should be pushed out. And instead, we need to sort of embrace the advantages that age can bring to your workplace. So, for example, we know we're in this incredible time of change, right? And turbulence and all the things. And how important to have some people who've lived through that post 9/11 environment, through the Great Recession, through COVID years, to be able to help navigate your team, right? So we develop this resilience as we get older. There's been all of this debate about AI, right? And can older people use AI? And there was a friend of mine who runs an organization called Generation, um, did a study and it said 90% of hiring managers wouldn't hire anybody over the age of 35 for any role that involved AI. Now that's kind of stupid, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. One, you're excluding a huge amount of potential workforce, but more importantly, because of the experience and insight we have, we kind of can craft better prompts because we really know what we're looking for. And
We
then
know
we
what to say. We know how to ask for it.
know how to ask for it. And then Dayna, we also know how to interpret the results. So if our friends at ChatGPT are hallucinating, we need to go, that's kind of not the right answer and to feed it more prompts. So, there's so many reasons why companies, especially now, need experienced talent. And so flipping the script is kind of calling companies' attention to it. It also, I think the two of you are in that category. Um, older entrepreneurs, people have this idea that an entrepreneur is a 20-year-old guy with spiky hair, right? Sitting in the coffee shop with his laptop. And we actually know that the most successful entrepreneurs are people age 45 and over. Again, experience and insight and all of that. So yes, coming off their rockers to start new businesses, new ventures, new endeavors, and all of that kind of
And
thing.
I was reading something that I think you had written, and and you just mentioned it earlier, that we've been through the pandemic, we've been through a lot. I'm going on 66, and that as we get older and we go through these things, we are the ones that aren't going to panic during a crisis.
Exactly.
We're the ones calming the 20 and 30 and 40-year-olds down like they're our children that, everybody just calm down. Let's figure out, what's our goal? What's getting in the way now? And is there a way through it or around it or under it or over it? But everybody just chill a bit. We're gonna be fine.
Dayna, that's exactly it. During COVID, I was doing a workshop for a global women's forum, and one of the women business owners, basically said to me she was really trying to hold on to her experienced talent because they could reassure the younger people, especially people who are just think of graduating from college, right? During COVID, and you're entering your first job, and then there's all this chaos around you. And so she really appreciated the fact that her older talent could not only mentor people, but provide that sort of influence. Like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to get through it. We know how to navigate around to find a new supply chain or to retain that longtime customer who's unsure about kind of what's going on in the economy and that kind of thing. So, a lot of advantages to having the off our rocker crowd on your team.
It's interesting. My 25-year-old son is a waiter in a movie theater, and his favorite coworker is a 68-year-old woman. And he said, she's just the only one who's not gossiping. She's the only one who's not bitching. She's the only one who's not panicking. He said, she just comes in and she does her job. And he says, I really appreciate just hanging out with her. I'd rather just,
Okay,
I
so
love my friends and everything, but I'd rather just be with her.
do you know why I love that story so much? So, very often when I'm brought in to speak to companies, it's because they have generational conflict, right? Or they perceive that they have generational conflict. And what's interesting, I'll be like 5 minutes into the workshop, and all of a sudden, it's like people are calming down about that. But when you pair people together,
Mhm.
people start realizing, oh, we actually have more in common and we actually like each other, right? So we're able to get away from those silly myths. And I think AARP and a couple of others did some research that show actually, like your son did, we enjoy working with people and learning from people of different ages. I'm sure that woman also enjoys working with your son and learning from him, right? So there's an incredible power to intergenerational workplaces. That's another thing we're trying to flip the script about it. It's not about conflict, it's about what we can learn from each other. And the beautiful part is, to me, because, we're talking to companies and money is that bottom line, intergenerational workplaces are more productive, more creative, and more profitable, right? So there's great data on that. So why wouldn't we want to do that?
Oh, I love that. Well, culturally, in other countries, oftentimes the elders are revered and
Yeah,
they realize that they have so much wisdom. I
yeah.
mean, that's really what happens over life, right? You gain a lot of wisdom that you can bring. And as you describe that, that's the essence of Off Their Rockers film TV series that we've put
Our
together.
script, that's it. There's kids.
Bring
Yeah.
the teenagers with the folks in the retirement home, and what evolves is incredible, which is exactly what you're essentially doing. So it's wonderful to meet you and know that you're out there impacting folks. What in your life inspired you to take this direction and become an advocate?
So I've been an advocate in a way all my life, not necessarily around this issue. My parents would have said that I kind of grew up saying it's not fair, it's not fair. So I was just
Oh, I
that kind
love.
of personality. But a couple of things happened. One, I had a tremendous role model in my own mother, who grew up in an immigrant family that sent the boys to college, but interestingly, not the girls. And so my mom was really smart, graduated from high school age 16, then, just has to wait, hang out, wait to get married. When she was nearing 60, she went to my dad and said, Ray, I'm going to college. And I think he was a bit taken aback. She went, graduated 4 years later, magna cum laude and fluent in four languages, right? That it was something that was really important to her. So I had this role model, right? That age should not be a barrier, that we don't come with expiration dates. But before I started changing the narrative in 2018, I had run a consulting company for over 3 decades in the social sector. So my clients were like nonprofits, foundations, government agencies, socially responsible businesses. And what was fascinating to me was during the Great Recession, all of a sudden, older people were being pushed out. And because I had a pretty wide network, people had previously sent me their kids who were graduating from college and saying, "Oh, can you help him or her get a job?" I would always try to help. And now people were sending me like their parents and saying, "Could you help them get a job?" And I just thought, this is so ridiculous. What a waste of talent. And what I knew from working in the nonprofit sector is so many people in that sector love doing the work, but they hated fundraising, right? They hated raising money. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing these amazing people in their 50s who've got sales and marketing backgrounds who've been pushed out, which, how stupid is that? If your company is losing money, are you going to push out the people
Yeah,
who
if you know
are
somebody that can ask for money, I don't care if they're
money?
111, you
Right. You
give
you
them the
you keep
job.
and it was kind of stupid. So I literally started this program that I ended up winning an award for of training sales and marketing people who've been pushed out um, to do nonprofit fundraising. And so I think it just occurred to me, why are we allowing this waste of, human potential? And when I got ready to leave my consulting firm, I had an amazing team in place and I wanted to do something else. I was asked to lead what became changing the narrative. And that was when I started encountering, the stories of so many people, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, being pushed out of work because of ageism. And I just thought, how stupid is this, right? At the same time that we were having talent shortages, and we still are, despite, all the turmoil we're in right now, we have talent shortages in almost every industry. Why on earth would you push out people with experience? So I think that is what, personally motivated me to focus not more broadly on ageism and all, because ageism appears everywhere, right? But really focus on ageism in work, entrepreneurship, and that kind of thing.
I love it when one of my trolls will, doesn't matter what I post, they'll post something like, "Well, I can't believe how old you are." I'm like, "Oh, honey, I've been on the radio since 1977. I hung out with Van Halen. Yes, I'm old, but I'm still alive. And I
Dave,
hung out with
we
Van Halen and you
trade
didn't."
troll stories. We should trade troll stories.
It's just like, it's like, yes, I'm old. And you know what? And I'm happy and I'm better off than you are. So
And
there you go.
there
You
you
should
go.
get
No, my
back to
favorite
work and
troll
learn to
thing
be
is,
nice.
yeah, is when people just post on my things, old people should die. And I'm like,
Well, we will eventually.
happen to every day. We're all going to die. Like, what is wrong with you? You
Yeah.
know?
Who still pushes back? Who, I
Well,
mean, we agree with you. We're all preaching to the
yeah,
choir here. But I use the example. I still every once in a while get called in to do some crisis communication training when I'm in
right.
Houston for like oil and chemical and gas companies.
Yeah,
And I had a good old boy attorney from one of
yeah,
these very, successful multi-billion dollar energy companies put his feet up on the desk, his cowboy boots, and say, "Well, little lady, we'll just turn off the internet." And I'm like, "Oh, honey, bless your heart." Who's still pushing back
yeah.
on what you're trying to accomplish? What, any
So
specific examples or just general?
yeah, I would say that there's a general, like we're nowhere where we need to be. I feel like we were making more progress before the last election cycle when everything became all the public conversation became about people being too old, and that if you're talking about people being too old in a political environment, that kind of trickles down and kind of moves into the workplace and everything else. So that's kind of been, I think that there's some pushback there. Um, and I work a lot on public policy stuff to support the kind of work that we're doing. And we ran successfully a bill in the Colorado legislature, and Colorado is my home state, to stop employers from asking for age or high school graduation dates on their job applications. And we had a lot of support, but one of the legislators who opposed it was himself an older guy who said, "Hey, look, same thing. It must be a guy who wear cowboy
Cowboy
boots," kind
boots.
of thing,
Put them up
puts
on the
cowboy
desk.
boots on the desk, and basically says, "Well, hey, I'm old, and if somebody doesn't want to hire me, that should be just fine." And then went on to give one of those filibuster kind of speeches that went on for hours and hours. So I think that there are people who do believe incorrectly that older people should get out of the way. And that doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense because one, it doesn't make sense for the economy, but it also doesn't make sense for the younger workers who really, really want kind of the availability of mentoring. I mean, to me, one of the most interesting studies, Dana and Lissa, that I read in the last year was by Resume Builder. And hiring managers were saying, uh, basically, they won't hire anyone over 60. They'll screen out people over 60, but they also screen out people age 27 and younger. And I'm like, well, how are you building any kind of pipeline? And the reason they screen out younger people is they say, well, they don't have a work ethic. And I'm thinking, well, here's how we all learned a work ethic, right? We show up on our first job, we start doing something, somebody pulls us aside and says, that's probably not what you want to do. And
I
that's how,
got so cocky in an earlier radio job, and I was so incredibly fortunate. I wasn't even 20 yet,
yeah,
but I had a couple of the older rock, jocks
yeah,
pull me off to the side and say, "You have a great voice, but you're not going to last 6 months if you don't change your attitude." And I'm so fortunate they did that because it
yeah,
did. It changed my whole trajectory.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
and that's why it just doesn't make sense. So is there still pushback? Yes. Is there tons of work to do? Absolutely. And that's why I love being on podcasts like this, because the more people hear the message and start to think how ridiculous it is to push people out who have so much to offer, so much talent and everything else. Like, why would you? It doesn't make economic sense. So,
So what do we do besides you and me and Lisa get together and bitch?
oh, we're not bitching. We are saying my mantra. Although I certainly do enough of that, but my mantra, don't just talk about it, be about it. So I think that there are all things that we can do. And one of them, if your listeners are themselves in the category that someone might describe as older adults or experienced talent, we need to stop ageism that's in ourselves. So when you have that sort of thing, oh, you're about to start an exciting new endeavor, but that little voice comes in your head that goes, maybe I'm too old to start this and that kind of thing. We got to, just shut it up. Talk to yourself in the mirror. We actually, at Changing the Narrative, created a speak up chart. I'll send it to you, but it's basically a talk back to yourself. If you think, oh, I'm too old to start this, learn this, do this, speak up. So that's ourselves. But I think for the opportunity, when we're in the workplace, besides hiring me to come and talk to your teams, I think what you do is we need to be allies for each other and we need to bring other people along. I think we've all been fortunate in our lives to have someone who, gave us a hand. And I do think it's important for all of us who are older to recognize that ageism also occurs against younger people. So, I always, always preach, I am not going to advance older workers at the expense of younger workers. It takes all ages, right? And the most successful endeavors are multi-generational. So as older people, we need to advance careers of younger people. But we also need to ask them to be allies and stop using this ageist stuff. And then the other thing for anybody who is sort of advocacy or politically inclined is we need to tell our policymakers they need to pay attention to this. Do things like we now have what I call graduation date bills in 5 states, Colorado being one. And it's basically no employers, you can't ask for age or graduation dates on applications. Why does any employer need to know our high school graduation date outside of
Ask
maybe
me what
first
my
job in
experience
McDonald's?
is. Ask
That's
me
it.
what my expertise is. Ask
Right.
me what I would do in a situation maybe in your company. Doesn't matter if
Right.
I'm male, female, Old, young, gay, straight, it doesn't matter. Ask me what my experience is.
Yeah.
That is what I bring to you.
Exactly. Exactly. So we just need you just, keep repeating that message all the time. And but I think all of us, I like to say we're the leaders we've been waiting for. People don't really care about this issue very much. So we need to be the champions and advocates out there and just keep speaking up about it. And I will also say the kind of programming that you were doing and that you were talking about doing also changes the narrative because people see, oh, here are two women with experience and look what they're doing and look how they're rocking it, right? So all of us have that opportunity every day to in the things that we do to show, we ain't done yet.
Well, I love the work you're doing and appreciate it because you're really putting it out there. And it does kind of start with us individually and changing our own inner narrative
Yeah,
too, right? Because
absolutely.
it just fills us up in this culture in particular.
Right.
And
Well, we're so surrounded, right, by those messages like get out of the way, you're too old,
yeah, and it's so ironic because we're all headed the same direction.
Thank you. Listen, that is my song, I mean, there are sometimes
Yeah, that's a good song title.
what okay, I think you've got to have that song maybe as an intro to your show or
There you
something.
go. Write that down right now, Lisa.
Well,
Just
I
go ahead,
paid off.
go ahead and record it. But one of the things I say in my workshop, and people always stop and go, and I don't think it's that earth-shattering, but the one thing that all of us in this room right now have in common is today for each one of us is the oldest we've ever been. And think about this before you go to sleep tonight. Wow, this is the youngest I'll ever be again, right? So if we have that frame of mind, tomorrow, if we are fortunate, we're all waking up a day older, right? It's much
I
better to
like it.
try
I
to,
like it. Well, tell me, now completely switching gears,
yeah.
Janine, tell me an interesting fact about you that has nothing to do with any of this.
An interesting fact about me, I am a total city girl who ended up moving the day before the 2020 election I grew up on the East Coast. I raised my family in Denver, Colorado, like literally 5 minutes from downtown Denver. And in 2020, because my husband had always been a hobbyist winemaker and he wanted to start a vineyard, we moved to the country where I am still. The scenery is absolutely beautiful. I love that he is living his dream life as his encore career. And I am afraid of the deer, elk, and the bobcats that show up all of the
Oh my
time.
God, you're the Colorado version of Green Acres. I
I
love
am so the Colorado version of Green Acres. So yes, this is what I love the scenery. You can see my view behind me here on screen, but yeah, outside of that, it's terrifying. We were sitting on our patio the other night and like here trucked down a bobcat, and I was like, I don't need to see this.
I'm gonna die.
Yeah. Anyway, so how's that?
That's
I
fabulous. Can you tell us if somebody wanted to contact you to have you come speak or to work with you in some capacity, where would we find you?
Best way to find me, two places. One, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, Janine Vanderburg.
Mhm.
And the other is my website where I've got a form where people can contact me about speaking, and it's encoreroadmap.com. Encoreroadmap.com.
and
Okay.
we'll have links to all of this in the show description wherever you're
Yeah.
listening to or watching this podcast. Um, Final words for a woman list. The whole point of Off Their Rockers, it's for women 50 plus. Some of the people that we interview have great advice. Some of the women we interview are looking for that change and not sure what to do. Some of the women we interview have changed their lives and are completely doing something new. For a woman listening to this particular episode of the Off Their Rockers podcast, Janine, who's just kind of on that edge, it's like, yeah, no, I think I'm just gonna, I'll retire and, what do you say to her to give her that kick in the ass that, you know what, you can do this. No, we're not all going to be Pat Benatar, but damn it, we can act like we are with a hairbrush.
Yeah. My mantra is this, and I say this all the time. I tell people all the time, I'm trying to design coffee cups with it so people can see it every morning. It's not too late. Dreams don't have an expiration date. It's not too late. Dreams don't have an expiration date. All of us have dreams, right? Over a lifetime. And maybe we were starting careers, we were doing jobs that took a lot of time, we were raising kids and all of that. It's like now is our time. And it's time to like pull out those dreams or to pursue a new dream. And why would you not do that?
Thanks for listening to Off Their Rockers. You can join hosts Dayna Steele, me, and Lisa Forehand as we continue to discover women around the world living their life to its fullest and then some. Are you one of these women? We want to talk to you. Let us know at daynasteele.com. Off Their Rockers is produced by JFA Inc., executive producer Dayna Steele, copyright JFA Inc.